Happy Thursday, everybody. Hello and welcome to Tachy Talks. We got another great interview themed episode coming at you today. We think we're still in the time frame for interview episodes, so hopefully you've still got interviews coming up. So today we're going to be answering questions that you guys submitted about interviews. But before we jump into all of that, my name is Haley. I'm so happy to be here today with my two pals. Pals, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Advait, a pal that was just introduced not too long ago. But take it away, other pal.
And I'm Kylie. Thank you.
That's Kylie.
Lovely. Good job. Great performance. Love it when things work out. And Advait and Kylie, what have you been up to for the past week?
All right, listen.
Or so. If it's really cool and it's outside of the week mark, I will allow you to include it without losing any points.
Without losing any
Gotcha,
points.
bracket.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can talk about this now. It's been a while now. So let's talk about stocks, guys.
No.
This just shows you how long it's been since we've had like a traditional podcast filming, because Advait is still thinking about GameStop.
Listen, you gotta hold. You gotta diamond hand that. Haley doesn't know what that means, but that's okay. She's a boomer.
I was so confused.
She doesn't understand what diamond hands is. She doesn't understand what paper hands. She doesn't get this
To the moon.
modern day lingo out here. But then these guys get all the TikTok trends, and I don't understand that. So that's a fair trade-off. Not going to go into my portfolio too much, but let's just say it's been a wild month, wild few weeks with stocks trading. I may have lost a lot of money.
Advait, are you rich now? I just want to know.
Okay, I am not rich, but you give me like 2 years, I'll be rich enough to drop out of med school. So I might graduate just for the sake of graduating. I might just graduate just to get my degree, but like if I get my goals, I might just drop out. And
No, I'm not letting you do that.
Wait, no, I'll graduate.
No,
I'll just drop out of like residency if I get my my.
I'm not letting you do that. Anyways, continuing on.
I don't want to go too much detail with that before. Let's just say there's a lot of crying. There's a lot of smiles and laughing before the crying, and then we're not doing too bad right now. We're doing pretty good, but it's been a rough week. It's been a rough 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't have any words right now.
I don't want to talk about it.
Back to normal things. Kylie, what have you been up to?
Okay, I have a whole monologue prepared. I have a lot of things I want to talk about.
Oh my God, send it.
Okay, so first things first. Obviously, it has been a very long time since we've done like a traditional podcast. So a lot of my thoughts have added up here. First thought, in the past month, have become a sparkling water connoisseur. I think I already was before this past month, but this is my new hobby. And I was inspired today by a meeting that we had. I was thinking about it. I was like, what is the best sparkling water brand? And right now, I was at home and I'm really into the Farm Boy pineapple sparkling water, but I also heard today that there's a I don't know, I want to call it buble because the Michael Bublé commercials, pineapple sparkling water, and they have a peach. But then I also really like the La Croix like mango sparkling water because that's kind of like unique. But then my absolute favorite are like, okay, I don't even know if it's my favorite anymore because I really like this one, is the black raspberry and blood orange San Pellegrino sparkling water.
What is blood orange? What is that?
It's an orange that is like
orange.
purple. Yeah.
Fun
Really?
fact, I had a very bad experience with pineapple juice and I can't drink it. And like even the smell of pineapples, I can't handle that.
Pineapples are
So
so good,
I will
though.
leave you with, that's all the detail I'm going to give. Terrible experience with pineapple juice. Go on, Kylie.
My headphones died. Well, anyways, that was all. I don't really have any other hobbies, which is why I'm judging sparkling water instead of doing things that actually matter with my time. But that's okay. The next big thing that's happened is we have our batch bracket for The Bachelor. Haley's losing.
Okay, that was rude.
Wasn't she winning like a few weeks ago?
Yeah, like I won the first episode and then it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, but I'm beating her, so that's nice. I just wanted everyone to know that. And then schools, we're doing some in-person school soon, obviously with all our PPEs. That's really exciting. But yeah, all I really wanted to share was my sparkling water thoughts, and I've shared those now. So Haley, you can tell us about your week.
Wait, I have a hot take first.
Yes.
Sparkling water is disgusting.
I agree.
It's straight trash, and you should just drink normal water or drink juice. Just pick one.
Okay, I drink a lot of water though. I drink like 5 or 6 liters of water a day, which is also not healthy for me.
That's not what. That's ridiculous. What? Why?
Because the water helps me not get headaches, so I drink a lot of water.
Okay, fair, but like sparkling water, I don't know. I honestly can't drink it. I would rather drink nothing than drink sparkling water.
If we're gonna talk about my liquid intake, okay, sparkling water, that is a hot take, but I mean, it is a very polarizing subject. Some people really love it, me. Some people really hate it, Advait and Haley. But it's just like, it's like, especially when you get ones that taste really good, like juice, it's really nice. Well, there are some that like are low calorie with juice. That's also nice. But I want to talk about my my electrolyte drinks too, because I'm really excited about those. So another hot take, I got these like tablets. I don't have any here. I put them in my closet, but you put them in water and they dissolve, and it's like this electrolyte drink, and it's really tasty. And then Haley and I ordered some from Liquid IV. I think that's what it's called. A little bit different. But it's supposed to be very good for working out and stuff. So I'm excited about that.
Isn't that just like Kool-Aid with extra steps?
I think it has less sugar and more electrolytes. And do you ever just, sometimes I read about all like, you know, when we get our patient cases and they're like, oh, their calcium was this and this and this. And I'm like, I know mine are probably all within normal ranges, but I would appreciate having the ability to do daily blood tests at home so that I could just track it. I just think that'd be a cool thing to know about myself. I think somebody should make that so that I can just do a blood test at my home every day.
Instead of 23andMe, they should have like a blood test in me where it's like you just get a kit, draw blood every day.
I'm just curious.
Test it
yourself. I want to know, what's my iron? What's my TSH? Like, I just want to know.
That's what makes people paranoid though. That's what makes people paranoid. If it's down one day from your normal, you're going to start like going crazy.
I know.
No, but I would love to know my TSH daily. Like that would be really nice for me. Although TSH daily is an absolute waste because it takes like 6 weeks to go to steady state for TSH. So maybe every 6 weeks I could test my TSH.
I just hate the middleman of the doctor. I hate going to the doctor. So
I hate doctors. Why do they even exist?
You are the worst.
They're actually so
you
dumb.
Are going to be the.
We don't need doctors. They're just fake.
Guess what I want to know is why is it illegal for me to write myself a blood rec when I'm a doctor one day?
Because you'll abuse
it.
I understand why I can't write myself scripts for drugs, but why can't I write myself a script for a blood test? Because I would just wait it out for 2 years until I was an MD, and then I'd get my own blood test. But instead of to go to the doctor. And then I'm going to say, oh, I'm having these symptoms and I want to get my blood test. And he's going to be like, you dumb, ugly idiot. What do you think is wrong with you? I'm going to say, no, I'm just kidding. My family doctor is so nice. He would never say that to me. But this is what happens inside my brain. I'm telling you, so many people can relate. And I'm going to say, oh, well, I think it's this. And he's going to say, well, you're wrong. And this is why you're going to be a terrible doctor. And none of your patients are going to like you for this reason. So that's why I avoid going to doctors.
Wow. And I'm going to be here to be the voice of reason and say, that is not going to happen.
That's not
and you can't write your own blood recs and you can't write your own prescriptions. And then that's that.
Meanwhile, my family doctor legit knows nothing about me. Every time I go to them, I'm like, hey, I need to get a blood test for school, or I need to get an x-ray for my chest for TB or whatever. They'll always be like, why? Why do you need this? I'm in med school. They're like, okay, so like, why is this important? I'm like, what? They told us we need this. Every time I go, I have to keep telling them that I need it because I'm in med school, and it's the same family physician. They just don't care. And I love that.
I don't know why. Like, you know, when you were a pre-med and you would go to the doctor and they'd be like, so what are you in school for? Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you would have to be like, I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to be a doctor. And it's so humiliating. And for what?
Oh no, I kept that so low key. I wasn't gonna tell.
Okay, but you could keep it low key, but I would go to the doctor. I'm like, yeah, I'm in biomedical sciences. What do you think I want to do? Obviously, I want to go to medical. I want to be you when I grow up.
You could want to go to veterinary school. I have a lot of friends at Guelph who are in biomed and went to vet school.
Like, don't sell yourself short, doctor. And he's like, so what specialty do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't want to tell you because it's going to be embarrassing if I don't match.
I know. That's why whenever a physician asks me before, when I wasn't in med school, what do you want to do? I was just like, I don't know. Like, I'm just doing my classes, maybe research. I would always just say that, maybe research. I don't know. To be fair though, I only decided I want to go into med school like third year of undergrad. I didn't know before then, but like still, I would just always say research. Maybe I'm not sure. Still exploring for that reason. Because if I did get it, I'd be like, man, I look like a fool. But oh well.
It's okay.
Anyways,
so you know, all doctors are great.
Yeah,
that's a lie. But
it's just our own insecurities coming out right now.
So yeah, this is entirely not a problem with doctors. It's a problem with me, and I recognize that.
Yeah, it's honestly just her. It's a her issue. That's it.
All right, moving along. Before we get started today, we are talking about interviews again. I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. Everything we say today, this is our advice only. We are not professionals at interviews. We do not guarantee that anything we say today is the right answer. This is our opinions and our opinions only. We do not reflect the views of our institution, and we do not guarantee that you will either get an interview or get into medical school. Really, that's that. This is our own opinions. And then I guess another disclaimer is Haley and Advait both love doctors. That they're just out here sharing their insecurities. But
we're memeing. We're just memeing.
Exactly. All right. So,
and also we actually have literally no insight into how the interview process works. Besides like having interviews, we have no idea what goes on behind the curtain. So who knows? It's a mystery. But we have some questions that you guys submitted here on Instagram, and we're going to go through some of them. And I'm just going to go in order that we received them in. Some of them are like doubles or have the same idea. So if you don't hear your exact question, it's because it's been answered with another question. And if we don't answer your question here, you can always DM us. So the first one is tips for tell me about yourself. I find this to be the hardest question. So true. So true. What do you even say? I feel like whenever I was asked this question, I just bumbled through like a very, I don't even know what I was trying to like highlight in my life. It was very messy. So I have come up with a framework for you, and then I'll give you an example. If it's okay with you guys, I prepped this in the notes app. So if it's okay with you guys, I'm just going to go ahead and take this one.
Go for it.
So I'm going to tell you my little framework here, and then I'm going to tell you, like, give you an example of what I would have said at the time. So first, you want to say your name. You've already introduced yourself probably, but it's not a bad idea to say your name again. You can say where you're from. If you moved around, maybe you can include that. It might be cool if you have like a cool history of living places. You want to say where you're at now, what you're kind of doing with your life. You want to highlight some cool things about yourself. If you have any research interest or something academic that you would want to highlight, you put it in there. And then you just say why you're there kind of, and that you're excited to be there, something cheesy. So I'm going to give you an example of what I would have said. And I didn't say this. I wish I had. It would have been such a better answer when I was asked this in the past. But this is what I would have said at the time. I would have said, thank you so much for that question. My name is Haley Gurton. I was born in Windsor, raised in Windsor, Ontario, and then I moved to Peterborough to attend Trent University. I'm currently in my 4th year studying biomedical sciences. I spent a lot of time at Trent with the rowing team. I'm actually president of the rowing team, and I'm a coxswain for the lightweight men's team, which just means I sit in the boat and I steer and I kind of coach them. I have like a little microphone, like Britney Spears style. So one of my favorite activities and something that I've learned a lot from. My research that I'm conducting this year is in angiogenesis and toxicology in fetuses. It's really cool. I've learned so much, and I'm really excited to wrap up that research as I approach the end of my 4th year. I'm applying to medical school this year. I'm so excited to be here at Western because I've heard such great things about the family atmosphere. So I was so excited to get this interview, and I'm so excited to be here today. So that's short and sweet, and you've highlighted some things about yourself. And this is one of those answers that you can have prepped going in, because you'll get asked this at a lot of different places, a lot of different interviews, even if it's not medical school. They'll ask you to tell them about yourself. So tailor it to the school, tailor it to who you are and what you want to highlight. But you don't need to go, this is not the place to go into like, this is every award I've ever received. It's just the big things in your life and kind of a launching off point. And if you can have it nice and organized, that's good.
Just to add to that, you pretty much covered it, but with if you Google, like, let's say you get your med school interview and you say, okay, I got to Google how to prepare, and you Google med school interview questions, first thing that comes up is the tell me about yourself question. And I used to, like, when I was preparing for interviews, I was reading about it all the time. And none of us know the weighting of the questions or how interviews work. We don't know, like, if it's just like kind of like an introduction question, but it's always good to have, like what Haley said, something ready to go, because whether that's med school, dentistry, vet school, that's a great way to start off your interview, is basically mentioning who you are, a little short story about you, and then they'll start diving into the other questions. So I think that no matter what you're doing in life, it's always good to follow Haley's advice and have your tell me about yourself question.
And this is a complete conspiracy theory that I have that I'm going to share with you. I truly, in my heart, believe that they ask you a question like this first, because it's like pretty much guaranteed that you're kind of mumble and stumble your way through it and be really nervous, and then you get it out, and then you can like actually answer the next question. I think that it's a fake out to get your nerves out of the way, but which is exactly like my first answer to my interview question, whatever that was. I remember I stumbled my way through it. It was tragic. So if that happens to you on your first question, don't let it freak you out for the rest of the interview. I promise they will not base your performance on that one first question. I honestly think it's to get your nerves out of the way. So don't dwell on it.
It's kind of like an icebreaker. Yeah. Getting to know you, like when you go to like camp and everyone's playing icebreakers to get to know you. I don't know. That's just how I used to think about it. Advi, do you have thoughts?
Do you own any thoughts, sir?
Is there anything going on there?
It's pretty empty. No think. It's pretty empty. But no, I think like you went over most of it. I don't know how I would improve your answer. I think you did a pretty good job. Just like what Haley and Kylie said, this is a question that pops up in every interview. It'll be reworded. It'll be slightly different. For example, sometimes they'll ask like, tell me about yourself. Sometimes they might ask, tell me a day in your life. Tell me about a week in your life. I don't know, different variations. So just kind of come up with an answer for this before you go into your interview. Maybe write it down onto a Word document and practice saying it. But yeah, I think they went over most of the details regarding answering those types of questions already.
Okay, so next question. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be disappointed with our answer, so I'm sorry. But the question is there a certain criteria to the interviews? So I think you mean like a scoring criteria. And the answer to that is we have no idea.
Unfortunately, yeah. Since we haven't interviewed anyone officially. And even if we did interview somebody officially, like we can't really talk about it if we did. We kind of signed an agreement, but we haven't. Still, we have no idea how this interview process actually works in terms of scoring. We're just kind of talking about our own experiences today and what kind of got us through the interviews and what got us accepted into medical school. So not everything we say is perfect. It's not like if you follow it word by word, you're going to get in. These are just some tips and helpful tricks that we have to potentially help you out.
Okay. I have nothing to add. In case you're
Thank you for the contribution. Okay, so next question. We have two that are kind of similar here. Some health policy to look into and healthcare topics you wish you knew before interviewing. So I think a big one here is you want to know about like this. I would say there are three like big healthcare system types, whatever you want to call it. Basically, like comparing and contrasting Canadian healthcare with American healthcare with UK healthcare, which probably all have proper names that I have escaped my brain. They don't exist there, so I couldn't tell you. But
I think, sorry, just interrupt. I think not officially, but like look at the difference between two-tiered systems and like single tier and things like that.
Yes, that is what I was looking for. I knew it was tier or like something about payers, single payers. I don't know. There are words for it. But if you're talking about, and these are just the three countries that you'll usually see, the three areas that you'll usually see. So I'm not trying to like exclude anybody, but Canadian versus American versus UK is typically pretty good to know about how those work and like the pros and cons in terms of wait time and availability of specialists and like how spread out the healthcare. So are there family docs available in rural locations? That kind of stuff is good to be informed on that. Any other ideas? of what people should know?
Some topics. I think it's a pretty important topic to, I guess, kind of look over, but look over MAID a little bit. That's something that I feel like comes up a lot in practice questions and actual interviews as well. So look up MAID, look up abortion laws.
Vaccine distribution. I don't know if that's like too hot of a topic for them to ask you about, but I would know about it just in case, because they might ask you about it. So just know like what vaccine distribution has looked like in Canada, that kind of thing. You could also look at Indigenous health is a pretty big topic, and our failure to provide good health to healthcare to Indigenous communities. And yeah,
I think I don't know if you guys mentioned it, but having like a good knowledge of healthcare laws in Canada. So what Advait said, MAID would be one. Maybe knowing a little bit about abortion laws in Canada. Again, they're never going to ask you to tell us about the Canadian legal system, or at least I wouldn't think. I honestly don't think so. But it is good to have a little bit of a working knowledge when you're going through your interviews. And honestly, what I was told when I was preparing is that, like, of course, you're never going to know what they're going to ask you, but it's like, if you just go through your newspaper, look at current events, like go to the medical section of your newspaper and look through that. That's a very good like background knowledge to have. If people don't read the newspaper these days, maybe YouTube trending videos on medicine. I don't know if you can do that. But yeah,
TikTok for your news.
I get a lot of news on TikTok, actually.
I actually do get my news from Twitter and Instagram for the most part now. So,
a few more things I was going to add. Maybe you want to look up. Once again, we're not guaranteeing you'll get asked this, but if you just want to be super prepared going in, you can also look up drug misuse, like opioid crisis, and then the aging population in Canada, because with the boomers getting older, we need more healthcare, and just kind of looking up things related to that. Is there anything else we might have missed?
I don't know if they would ask. I know it's more of a thing in the States, but like the idea of nurse practitioners and physician's assistants getting more autonomy, that is something that they might ask you about, and like what are the pros and cons of that. And do your own research. I'm not the most up to date on current topics in healthcare, but we do have a huge shortage of family doctors. There are so many people who don't have family doctors. And so there are clinics where NPs provide that care instead. And I think that is good, but it's something you should be aware of and the implications of that.
But yeah, those are just a few topics. And then if you just go on Google, I'm sure you can find some.
I mean, I find a lot of like really, really valuable information on this stuff on Reddit. That being said, though, Reddit is a lot of people's personal opinions. And so you just need to make sure that you're reading it from a source, like a peer-reviewed source. And I find myself like, I'll be reading all these opinions. I'll be like, oh yeah, like that person like makes total sense. And then I just have to remember to fact check things, because not that, okay, there are some people out there who are purposely trying to mislead you. But I don't think everyone's doing that. And it is easy to get caught up in people's opinions versus the actual facts of a story. So just keep that in mind when you're browsing on Reddit, but a good place to find info.
Also keep in mind that healthcare news tends to be a lot flashier and controversial in the States, but you want to focus on Canadian healthcare news. I know that maybe seems obvious to some of you, but a lot of stuff, when you Google it, a lot of stuff that comes up will be American. And it's good to be informed on those topics too. But in terms of like sitting down and actually looking up this stuff for the purpose of your interview, you want to be informed on Canadian healthcare topics. Okay.
Yeah, unless you got American interviews.
True. Sorry. Yeah.
Go for it.
That's very true. If
we don't discriminate interviews here.
Yeah. My Canadian-centric opinions. Be aware of the healthcare topics in whatever country you are interviewing in. That's the official statement. The official position of Haley. Okay, next question. They're combating nerves, and how did you manage your stress or nerves leading up to and on the day of the interview?
This is a very good question. Okay, one thing that I highly suggest, well, I guess it's virtual, so this is fine. But if you are listening to this in the future, future people, go stay where we've mentioned this before, but go stay in the city where you are interviewing. There is nothing worse than being stuck in traffic and you're 2 hours away from Toronto coming to London. It's just a whole other layer of stress you do not need. So stay in the city that you're going to be in. And that being said, we've mentioned before, you can, Western offered billeting for students, so you could stay with an upper year student. You can get an Airbnb, hotel, contact your friends. That's one big tip for you. But in terms of virtual interviews, I honestly, this was in person, but I didn't sleep the night before. I tried to go to bed early. I got Chipotle for dinner, one of my favorite things to eat. My mom and my brother were with me and they were trying to calm me down, but I was like sitting in bed shaking. And you know, as much as you want to try to combat those nerves, there's always going to be a little piece of you that's very, very nervous about the interview. Maybe if you get more, you'll start feeling more comfortable with the whole situation, but it is a nerve-wracking experience. And for a lot of people, they've wanted to go to medical school their entire life. That was like me. I mean, before I wanted to be Britney Spears, but then I wanted to be doctor. But I mean, do things the night before that you enjoy. Don't spend your whole night before preparing for your interview, trying to go through more questions. Take the night off. Eat your favorite food, hang out with people you love. And, you know, remember at the end of the day, my favorite quote by Haley, you are a human first and a med student second. So no matter what happens in that interview, you are still a valuable human. Thank you.
I feel like this question kind of calls me out because it's basically asking, like, do you have coping skills? And the answer is no.
That's a pretty good interview question, actually. Do you have coping skills?
No.
You would fail that interview, though. If you asked me that.
I actually do not cope. I just
you do have coping skills.
No,
you play with your cat?
I play with my cat. That's true.
You talk to me
before
and
your virtual interview. Seriously though, it's good to have like some actual, I know it sounds super cheesy, some actual techniques under your belt. So like I do square breathing where you like inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And I find that even the counting gets my mind off whatever I'm worried, like counting the breaths gets the mind off what I'm worried about. I met a girl at interviews who before every MMI station, she would stand in a power pose because there was that paper
before my
there's that paper that says that sitting in a power pose like boosts it helps you. And I mean, like, I was like, I could never do that. I would feel silly, but like she seemed like she was doing great. So good for her. You just have to find what works for you, but no shame in like do it. Google good ways to deal with nerves and find one that works for you. During the interview, I blacked out. So I don't remember being nervous.
Yeah.
I like the hesitation at the end.
That's okay. I mean, she's not wrong. When you're actually doing the interview, in my opinion, it flies by. Once you start, honestly, the first question, like from the beginning to the first question is forever. It takes forever. But once you finish that first question, you're going to be done in like before you know it. So the hardest part is just getting to the interview and starting. And then once you actually start, you just fly by.
If you can, I would chat with people in the little waiting room beforehand. I found that helped my mind take, like, I don't like approaching strangers. I'm really being mean to myself this episode. I don't like approaching strangers, but I would join a group and nobody knows each other. So it's not weird. Like you're not butting in or anything. And I would just chat with people and try to keep it not school related. And I found that helped a lot, like at the interview places.
I met 2 of my best pals now at my interview date. So
who?
Darusha and Vanessa.
Oh, I talked about fun.
Yeah, Vanessa doesn't remember me, but me and Darusha, we go way back now. But yeah, I highly suggest doing that too. I don't know what's gonna happen this year with Zoom, but I'm sure there's gonna be I think there's some kind of meet and greet on Zoom, and I would attend that. It's always nice to talk to other people, but I know it's hard, and especially it's so tempting when you can turn your camera off and just hide. But
do you guys ever I would do the interview and I would leave and I'd be like, oh, I think that went well, and then I'd be like, I am damp. I just was sweating the whole interview and I didn't even notice. And then I would leave and I'd be like, I literally all over just damp.
Yeah, I was confused what you meant. You're like, I am damp. I'm like, what? Is that slang for something?
No, like I literally would leave and like my whole body I would have been sweating the whole time, and then I stopped sweating. So now I'm just like shivering, and like it was physiologically not a good experience. But I didn't realize I was nervous and sweating during the interview, and that's what's important.
Her autonomic nervous system just off the scale.
Off the scale.
Funny story, actually kind of related to this, but last year before COVID, there was one weekend of interviews that we all got to help with, and we basically were Advait was there.
Wait, was I?
Yeah, because we went out for dinner. We went to Jack Astor's and you were there. I don't know if you helped with interviews, but it was also Shula.
Oh, I didn't help with interviews. I just came to London.
You just went for Shulapalooza.
I just came to London. I didn't help with the interviews.
Doesn't matter. That's not the story. Okay, Advait doesn't matter. But so basically, like, we were the people greeting you, and at Western, when you get out of your car, everyone just like screams, and it's really exciting. Unless you were me, and like I started crying because I was so overwhelmed when that happened. But anyways, when we were there that weekend, I remember I brought the first person to their interview room because you have to get around the building, and they opened the door, and I like leaned forward because I just like was in that moment because I thought I was going in the room, and I was like, oh my god, it's not me, thank god. But yeah, what a time.
Okay, next question. Any advice for getting a feel of the school/culture through virtual interviews?
That's a good question.
This is hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think it's hard to get a feel for the school and culture, even in person, because they're putting their best face forward, right? The students who are there walking you through the interview are like all us keeners, which is why Advait wasn't there. And we're obviously all going to say nice things. And I meant what I said, but we're not going to like put the school down. I would say that if you have the opportunity, it's good to talk to students outside of the interview environment. So if there will be meet and greets. I know for Western, at least, there's a meet and greet. I'm sure other schools will have it, or I know the schools out east do Facebook groups with current students. A lot of schools have programs where they'll set you up one-on-one with a mentor. I would ask those people about the school and culture, and I think that will give you a better overall picture. If you have other contacts that you can like Facebook DM or whatever, to kind of get an honest opinion. And I would ask about stuff like, are your classmates really competitive? Do you find, are there a lot of like extracurricular opportunities? Obviously not right now with COVID, but on a regular year. I would ask about like clubs and groups that are available. That's the kind of stuff that I would ask about.
Yeah. And honestly, just start reaching out to people. And I know it's scary, but if anything, I realize med students just freaking, they love to talk. They
love it.
They really do.
Yeah. Why do you think we're here?
Yeah. This is what entire shows is.
Yeah. So exactly. And I'm sure, well, I know if you message Haley, she'll answer you. If you message me, I will answer. Advait, no, I'm just kidding.
It's a 50-50
if you message me, I'll answer.
But yeah, no, I don't. But like outside of us, from other schools as well, you can message them, and they, I'm sure, will tell you all their thoughts and feelings. And I know most of them are pretty positive, but it is hard, especially when you have multiple offers, to kind of figure out which school fits you best. And there's a lot of things you need to consider too outside the school. Like, is your family close to you? I'm not going to lie to you, medical school is hard and I miss my family every day. So it's one thing that you need to consider, is that what's around you? Do you have your support system? And those are all things you got to look inside and figure out. So yeah.
I also don't want to make people feel self-conscious. I mean, ask whatever you want to ask, but do keep in mind that if you send me a list of questions that are the same 10 questions I've been asked before, I know that you got them online. So try to think of something original. I mean, there are some questions that will be the same person to person, but just be aware that, I mean, you're talking to an actual person who has modules to do and stuff. And so ask about information that you want to know about, and don't send 500 questions at once.
Yeah, I'm going to add something right here. So like, I think it's good to ask questions, but like go on their website first, the respective universities, and see what you can find on their website. Because asking something like, hey, what's the curriculum look like, is maybe not the best question to ask, because it's all on the website. And instead asking a better question like, hey, what are the clubs like, might be better.
Or you could say something like, hey, like I was researching the curriculum and I saw that you get 1 day off a week for independent learning. What is some of that independent learning stuff that you do on that day? Like showing that you research the curriculum a bit more. And that goes for the interviews as well.
Yeah, even showing that you've like pulled up the website and actually looked at it instead of just relying on, I don't know, it's one of my pet peeves when you can tell that somebody just didn't even make an effort to look up something themselves. If you made an effort and looked something up and you still don't, like, you don't understand it, it's not presented well on the website or whatever, that's totally fine. But you should be taking that initiative as a first step.
For sure. And then one more thing I was going to add is just to get a kind of feel for the university. This is not really the best thing to do, but still to get a kind of feel of the university, just look up their admissions video on YouTube. Type in Toronto admissions video, or Toronto med school admissions video, Schulich med school admissions video, Ottawa med school, whatever, you get the point. But those are just fun little videos the upper year class made for the interviews. I don't know if they'll be doing it this year because of COVID and like we can't really film. Oh, they did?
They made one. Right. I think it's out. It was all on Zoom though.
But you can also look at ours from last year. I looked it up the other day and it has over 1,000 views.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty good.
You can usually find them going years back. So
yeah, there's some really good ones a few years back. I think Toronto made one 3 years back, which was like Inception style. That was really good. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember that, and you should like look at that.
It was very impactful for Advait.
It was.
But Advait's already, and I didn't even think about that. That can definitely give you kind of like a vibe of what the students might be like. And the class vibe will vary year to year, obviously, but it will give you a little bit of an idea. Okay, next question. Any advice for group work / acting stations? So MMI stuff.
I'm not taking part in this one. I did not do an MMI. I don't know if you want my advice.
Haley, what do you got? Group work, acting stations.
Okay, no, I have something to say about group workstations because I did a group workstation at Dalhousie, and at the end we were asked to give feedback about one another, how we think we performed, and my group work partner tried to throw me under the bus and be like, I think she could have done this better. I think she could have done that better. I think she could have done that better. Don't do that. You look like a jerk. Like, I don't think that's what they're looking for you to like throw your partner under the bus. Even if, and I thought I did fine. But even if your group partner was like terrible and messed up the whole station for you, you can give constructive feedback, but you should also give something positive. I like the sandwich technique where you say a good thing and then something to improve on and then another good thing. But don't just stand there and say, and with no advice for feedback, she was just like, she did this badly, she did this poorly, she wasn't good at this. There was no like, I think she could have done this to improve. That's really negative, and you don't look good, and you don't look better than the person you're talking about. And it's rude to throw somebody else off their interview game, and that's bad karma. So now that
I do have something to add to that. I mean, not from MMI standpoint, but like giving constructive criticism is very like, it's a good skill to have in medicine. We have to give feedback on each other all the time. So it's good to start learning how to do it now. Don't just be like, Haley, you suck.
Yeah.
Wait, I can't do that?
No.
You suck.
Like, you could just message me that I suck, but like don't do it through like official feedback channels, because then you'll look bad.
Because then you'll look bad, and you don't want to look bad.
I would look bad, but you would also look bad for just telling me that I suck.
It's a kamikaze. I'm taking everyone with me.
But that would be my advice for group workstation is if you have something that they could improve upon, sandwich it and give something constructive. Like, I think you could have improved by doing this. You never want to just say to somebody like, you're bad at that. That's like not helpful to anybody.
You suck.
In terms of acting, I felt really silly acting, so I had to get past that. I don't know. Aren't all interviews kind of acting?
Yeah, they are in some sense. They are. But
just don't think about it. Just be like, I got to do this.
Just don't think about it. And honestly, it's just practice too. I think if you do a few practice questions, maybe find somebody online who's also doing an MMI or your friends and try to do an acting question together. I know it'll be super silly, especially when you're doing it with your friend, but that's the best way to get better at these acting questions. Because when you do it for the first time at the actual interview, you're going to be super uncomfortable. So better to be uncomfortable beforehand than at your actual interview.
And then another thing about group work is those stations are obviously all about how you communicate and teamwork with another person. So just make sure that you're being very communicative. And I mean, say, for example, that your partner is totally dropping the ball and is just awful. You just got to work with what you got. Don't get impatient. Don't get frustrated. That shows that you have the capacity to work with somebody who's maybe not up to the same standard. Like that's a good skill to have, because you will run across that people who aren't willing to put in the effort or whatever it may be. So just keep your cool. It's not a life or death situation. The station is not about completing whatever task they've given you. They don't care if you complete the task. They care about how you're interacting with another human being, because that's a big part of being a doctor. Okay. How do you stand out in an interview?
Smile. Sorry.
It's actually a hard question. Actually is.
You could wear a purple tie to your Western interview.
I feel like that's so basic though. Like everyone does that.
With the purple tie?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to do that. I didn't wear purple tie. I got it.
No, that was a joke.
That was a joke.
I know I've heard of some people, don't take my advice for this. But I've heard of some people wearing like bright colors, like wearing a yellow shirt. I know one of my friends wear like a green shirt under her suit.
Yeah, I would not. I'm sorry.
It was a green, it was a pretty blouse. It was like green and white, and she wore it with her jacket.
If that's like your normal vibe, like that's how some people dress. Wear whatever you're comfortable in.
All right, no, fair. But I mean, like, I thought you meant like sorry. I thought you were talking about a guy wearing a suit.
No. This is a girl. This was a girl.
Okay.
Sorry. I should have. This is like, it looked really cute on her. It was her vibe. It looked great.
For a dress, it's not too bad. I was like, yo, I'm not wearing a yellow suit out here.
No, yeah.
That's something. I can't do that. I'm not gonna go out looking like a clown.
I don't want to judge anyone based on their yellow suit choices, but like I feel like I personally would look like a banana. So
I wore a turtleneck under my blazer. I thought that was pretty brave of me.
But this is also on Zoom now, so like I mean, I would dress all in dress attire because, you know, look good, feel good, perform good. Like if you have your sweatpants on in the bottom, like you're like, what am I doing right now? But okay, actually, we were just talking about this before we started recording. I saw on Mac Emerge's Instagram, they had a few little tips, and they said that dress to impress, you know, so that's what we were just talking about. Test your connection and equipment. There's one way to stand out, and that's your computer freezing. So having good internet's always good. Obviously, there's times you can't control that, and they understand that, but they put smile with 2 exclamation marks. So smile.
How about ways to stand out when answering questions? Because we talked about the physical stuff a lot. What about in terms of your answers? How do you stand out?
Take the ums and ahs out.
Take the ums and ahs out. Yeah, you want to be very smooth when you're talking. What else we have?
Smooth like Advait.
Smooth like me, even though I just said
I think you want to be like, I think having really good structure to your answer. Honestly, if I was interviewing, that's what would stand, like somebody who had very well thought out answers. It shows that you can kind of like think and put together an answer on the spot kind of thing, like quick thinking skills. And that's just going to come with a ton of practice.
Yeah. It's honestly a really hard question because everyone that gets a med school interview, they're all exceptional on paper, right? That's why they got their interview. So when you're competing with these people who are probably also presidents of other clubs, parts of other sports activities on campus, things like that, it's hard to compare your actual activities. So I think where you actually stand out as a person is just answering your questions with a lot of confidence, speaking very clearly, making sure that, you know, all your answers are nicely structured, that you prepared beforehand so that you're not stuttering or using ums and ahs a lot. And it's just practice at the end of the day, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
Smile.
I mean, it's hard because we don't know what they're looking for, right? So that's why we can't really give like this is exactly how to stand out answer.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like, I know a lot of people will be worried because they think that whatever's on their CV doesn't stand out. And I mean, like, I know for sure that you go to U of T's interviews every year and there's like at least one Olympian in the group, you know, like that's just the kind of people, and that's not an exaggeration. Like there are Olympians in the interview groups at U of T. And that's why I would avoid talking about school related stuff in like the pre-interview when you're hanging out with the other students, because you're just going to psych yourself out. There's always going to be somebody in that room who's better than you, whatever that means to you, and it's going to psych you out. The interview is not so much, I think, is not so much what is on your CV anymore, and it's more of like, who are you as a person and how can you show that to us? So stand out by being genuine. Like, you can tell when somebody's being genuine.
And if you ever do find yourself in that situation where, sometimes that's the common ground in the room is everyone's applying for medical school, everyone's gone to school, and sometimes people just start talking about their accomplishments because that's what they start doing. Remember that you have been chosen for an interview. The school sees something in you and they want you to be there. So don't let it get in your head that this one person is an Olympian and this person has created this PhD, or this person's created this really cool invention. Don't sell yourself short. There's a reason that you were there. They see something in you and they want to talk to you.
Yeah, there's more than one spot for you to get. So
exactly.
Okay. Oh, this is a good one. How do you approach ethical scenarios?
Good question.
Framework for answering ethics questions. It's hard because every ethics question has like its own little nuance, but I think Kylie, you were saying that you have like a kind of like a framework.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't follow this. Like, this is what I was told. There might be pieces missing, so you guys can add parts, but basically, like, what you want to do is you want to look at the situation from both sides and you want to show empathy. So there might be certain situations where you definitely are on that side of person A, but you need to consider person B's viewpoint. So you say, okay, so person A in this situation probably feels like this because of this. Person B probably feels like this because of this, if that makes sense. We're going to do an example after. And then you need to kind of weigh the pros and cons of both options in this scenario. And then at the end, I was told to come towards a stance. We talked about this. There are situations where it's going to be very, very hard to come to a stance. But with these ethical questions, there's usually not a wrong answer as long as you can justify why you said that answer. So if you say, okay, I'm coming to this stance because of X, Y, and Z, then I think that that's okay. Again, I don't know the criteria. This is just what I've been told / through research for an ethical question. And I think it's a pretty good framework because you do want to look at both sides and you usually do want to take a stance. One situation, though, that we were thinking about before, obviously this has happened a lot this year with COVID, is what happens, not in Canada, thankfully, but in other countries, what happens when you have limited resources. So let's say you have two patients, both of them require a ventilator, but you only have one ventilator left. There's absolutely nothing you can do for them. You can't go behind them another ventilator. You only have one. One patient is 7 years old, 3 children, 10 grandkids, and then the other person is a 30-year-old person who's struggling with substance abuse. Who do you pick? And that's a really hard question to take a stance on.
Yeah. So let's take that question and let's take what Kylie said beforehand, okay? There's two sides to every argument. Now, the easy thing to say is, well, the guy is abusing drugs. Maybe he doesn't deserve it. And that's it. That's not a good answer, okay? You want to give more background information on everything, okay? There's no right or wrong. You don't have the entire story. That's also something you have to get. So let's start off by looking at one of the sides to the story. Let's start off with the 70-year-old patient. We can talk about how we understand that this patient has a family who probably wants him home. He's struggling for a ventilator. But the really big thing here is that we don't know what his situation is like. Just because he's 70, that doesn't mean he's worse off than the 30-year-old. It could be that the 30-year-old is struggling a lot more right now than the 70-year-old. And this is information that we did not get in the question prompt that we have to ask for and that we have to kind of look for. So, So going from here, you would take a look at the 30-year-old, be like, hey, I understand that he is a drug user. He's abusing drugs. But that doesn't change the fact that I am still their physician at the moment and I have to bring them care. It doesn't really matter what's going on the side. This is similar to why physicians treat criminals and like convicts and things like that. It's because your first priority is to bring them care. And then after that, you can try to solve their issues. So why is this guy a drug user? You have to think about that as well, an ethical question. Mm-hmm. Is he suffering from abuse as a child, which kind of led him to this pathway? Is this even his choice? Maybe he became a drug addict, or he started abusing drugs because it's something that was not under his control. And while you don't know these things, these are things you have to consider in your answer, or at least bring it up to the panel so that they know that you're thinking about it and that you have empathy. So now you're showing empathy for both the drug abuser by showing that you're not sure if this is something he's purposely done, if this was brought up to him without any other say. You're also bringing empathy to the 70-year-old by saying, I understand that he has a loving family at home who probably wants him back. It's really important to get him the ventilator. But at the moment, we need more medical information on who needs the ventilator more based on their vitals, based on, I don't know, Kylie, you look like you want to say something.
Their comorbidities?
I was going to say,
comorbidities.
Sorry, that was a part of my framework that you should have said. You should say the missing information that you want. So you should say something like, okay, this is person A's situation. This is person B's. This is the information I would like to have before I make this decision. In this case, there's a lot of missing information. Yeah. Just like Advait said, you do not know the story of either of these two individuals. Substance abuse is a legitimate condition, and there is a lot of information that you need there too before you can make this. And honestly, if this was happening in real life, I don't think it would just be on you to make that decision. There's teams that come together to make sure that there's no bias in the answer, because this is a human life you're talking about. And that's what this whole specialty boils down to, is providing ethical care and providing the best care to patients. So as long as you can get all that across.
Mm-hmm. And I would include that at the end. So I would say, like, here's all my missing information. Do they have comorbidities? What are each of their support systems like? What is their status like right now? How long have each of them been in the hospital? What other treatment have they received thus far? And then once you've wrapped all that up, you can say, and thankfully in real life, these decisions don't boil down to one individual. It is dealt with by a committee, which I think is very important, because I think that it would be extremely difficult and taxing for one person to try to make these decisions. And I don't think that it would be a completely unbiased answer. So I think that it's very important that these committees come together, they get all this information, they work through it, and that is how we come to conclusions about these kinds of things. And so that is kind of an example of a situation where you wouldn't necessarily at the end say, oh, I would choose the 30-year-old, I would choose a 70-year-old. There are situations, and you kind of, you'll get a feel for it, keep practicing these questions, you'll know when it's appropriate to say, this is the action that I would take next. This is what I'm going to choose to do next. And you'll know when it's appropriate to say, I don't have enough information to decide what I'm going to do next. In real life, I wouldn't make a decision about what to do next right now because I don't have that information, or it's not up to me, or whatever the case may be. Just the point is that you want to make your thought process very clear. So that's why you're stating all of these things aloud. It's kind of like when you're doing your driving test and you have to be like, I'm checking my blind spot now, and say it all out loud. It's ethics questions are the driving tests of interviews.
It's like OSCEs. When you do an OSCE, which is like a clinical exam when you get into medical school, you have to be like, I am looking in this person's eye so that I can see the optic disc and see all these things that could be wrong with it. But just to add to what Haley was saying too, there's going to be questions too where you are going to be able to take a stance at the end, but you still need more information. All of these situations, you're going to probably need more information. So you can say something like, oh, I would take this stance based on the information that I asked for, if it was provided, and you could take that down that road. But you are always going to be asking for more information, because the prompts usually won't encompass everything for these really complicated ethical scenarios.
Yeah, it's like a math question in 6th grade when it's like, show your work. That's why they ask you to show your work. You don't just go from the question to the answer. Yeah. This is the exact same thing. You're just like thinking out loud and letting them know what you're thinking, so that, you know, they're kind of following you along the entire process. And a lot of questions, the answer, it's not a right or wrong answer, as long as you back it up with your own reasoning. Now, sometimes there will be a right or wrong answer, and I think those would be a lot more obvious. But things like this, as long as you back it up with your own thoughts, you'll be fine.
Right. And that was actually our last question. Excellent. So those were all the questions people handed in. If we missed something that you really want to know, DM us on Instagram. That's the best way to get in contact, and we can try to answer it for you. But But we think that you are all going to do so great on your interviews. So we have the utmost faith in you. Keep practicing, keep learning new things. You're doing great. And thanks for joining us today. Any parting words, pals?
You're doing amazing, sweetie.
You are doing, I'm not going to promise you're doing amazing, but I hope you're doing amazing.
Okay, and if you have it, I'm going to put this up on an Instagram story later this week. But if you have any ideas for our TikTok, it's going to be launching soon. Let us know what you'd like to see. Ad rate probably won't be there. So just 2-person ideas because it's just going to be me and Kylie. So if you have any really cool ideas of what you want to see or any cool TikTok trends, send them our way. And we will start that process soon. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And we will see you at the next one.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Peace.